So if you scroll down under other materials, I've got the kinetic sculpture competition announcement here now. And looks like, yeah, Thursday, November 3rd, 7 p.m. in room 108 of Science 3. So no need to remember that off the top of your head right now. The announcement is in Blackboard under other materials. So anybody that's at all interested in participating in that kinetic sculpture competition for next spring, the initial meeting is November 3rd. I highly recommend it. So that's the first announcement.
Is that they're going to compete, or is that just a meeting?
It's a general meeting about what the whole thing is going to be like. I mean, I imagine they're going to form teams, and then it takes a while to build a sculpture that can move. So even though the competition is in the spring, I imagine the teams will start building stuff relatively soon. But I mean, you don't need to know anything about building sculptures in order to participate. So it's just the initial organizing meeting. Okay, next announcement. I emailed all of you this weekend about the second writing assignment, and it's a little personal improvement exercise that I want you to do. So, like I said in the email, I want you to identify one thing about your interaction with coworkers, friends, family, that you could do better. Like listen better, compliment people more, be more timely, whatever it is that you think you could do better with your interactions with people. I want you to write a brief description of that for me. And then I want you to actually do that changed behavior with some coworker or family member or friend over the course of the week. And then I want you to write down how they reacted to your change in behavior. So then you're going to send me a Word document. So it's going to be a Word document with 2 paragraphs. First paragraph is describing what you could do better. And the second paragraph is describing how somebody reacted to it when you did it. Okay? And that's due to me by the end of this coming weekend. Got it? Any questions about that? Is that a hand or just Armando?
Oh, what happens if you're like the best friend ever?
Huh?
What happens if you're like the best friend ever?
If you're the best friend ever and you couldn't do anything better,
Yeah.
think hard.
Think hard.
Do more of the same if you think you're the best friend ever. But I don't think there's any of us in here that couldn't do something better as a human being.
You could throw a best friend party.
So anyway, that's your assignment for writing assignment number 2, and that's due by the end of the weekend. Next, I'm going to go through the continuous improvement feedback before I do the lecture today. A lot of great feedback from you guys. I appreciate it, and I want to address some changes I think I can make going forward. So before I do that, just a kind of a recap for you guys on what the next couple of weeks are going to look like. I'm doing the lecture on corporate governance today. There's going to be a lecture on Thursday about corporate responsibility. Then next week, we'll have a lecture on management, implementation kind of stuff. That'll pretty much take us through the end of the chapters in the book that we're covering. There'll still be some special lectures on topics that I think are important, but the stuff from the book will be done as of next Tuesday. And then next Thursday, we'll have a review session for our second exam. And then the week following, we'll have discussion, kind of just about anything you guys want to discuss on Tuesday. And then the exam will be Thursday, 2 weeks from this week. Okay? So that's kind of the next couple of weeks for us. Let me pull up the continuous improvement feedback. I really appreciate you guys doing this. So I color-coded I color-coded some of these, but it looks like people have come in and made more comments since I did it, so thank you. Mr. Woods can use real-time issues with up-to-date news to relate to the curriculum. I will try. I need to prepare a little bit so that the up-to-date issues are actually relevant to the discussion and the curriculum. But I'd like to do that. So if I have it coded in red here, it means I will try. I can't guarantee that I'll get it done. But I like that suggestion. I will try to do it over the course of the rest of the semester. Lecture with more involvement instead of just following the PowerPoints. I tried to do kind of a discussion session last week where we just talk about the various topics. My experience or my comfort zone as a professor is sitting here and talking a lot, and it's not, my improvement exercise that I need to do is to talk less and listen more. So I'm not quite sure how I'll address it, but I will make the lectures more discussion oriented and less PowerPoint oriented. Shira, right? Damn, Lily, I'm sorry. Where's my pen? There it is. And Shira. Green is stuff that I definitely can, yes, positive, get done before the end of the semester. So no more review of how the strategic grant management process correlates to our book chapters to make more time for the lecture. No problem. No more focusing on that at the beginning of the session. Possibly make a separate time at the end of the lecture to talk about the case analysis instead of in the middle of the lecture. I like that. I think I can make that change too. So, sounds good. No improvement need. Anything that's already good, I put in blue. So, thank you for that comment. I'm enthused about the course. However, the PowerPoints can be underwhelming. I have about 3 times as many PowerPoints as I did last year for this class. Together with my colleagues, we really did a lot of changes from the quarter system to the semester system and how we're going to do this class. And because it is the senior capstone, there's a lot of material that we have to cover. So it's the first time that I'm doing a lot of these slides in this format, so the delivery is not quite as smooth as it could be. So I will try. I mean, we're pretty much at the end of that. We only got lectures this week and next week that are off the PowerPoints, but I will try certainly for future classes to make the PowerPoints a little more lively. I will at least try to not read off them so much. I'm trying to make sure that I cover material that we need to cover, and I have a tendency to just be cavalier about, this is Porter's 5 forces, there's 5 of them, they're forces, okay, let's move on. I tend to be too cavalier like that, so I've really been trying to focus on the stuff that I know I need to teach you guys, but I appreciate the fact that it can be a little stale. So I will try my best to make it less stale. Intellectual challenge. The most challenging part of the course thus far has been trying to understand Globus. I feel it should be necessary to have the whole class online in Globus in 1 to 2 sessions at the beginning of the course to go through it versus just showing us in a PowerPoint, actually going through the changes we need to make during the course because we all... I like that. Again, it's kind of late to do that this semester, but having everybody get online and work through everything at the beginning of the semester is a good idea. I think I'll do that in future classes, so thank you. I'd like the course to offer more real-world scenarios that could be hands-on, possibly class trips to other businesses. I think this is 2 different people commenting. I would have to agree. As students, we are constantly being thrown to many things that we forget really easily. If there was a way to apply concepts into more realistic situation, it would be easier to remember everything. I don't know. It takes a little bit of logistical coordination to organize a field trip. like especially depending on how far away it is. And we've only got an hour and 15 minutes of class time, so it makes it a little bit difficult. But I like the idea. I certainly am going to have guest lecturers come in and talk to the class. So rather than a field trip out, we are going to have people come in, I think from Wonderful, maybe from Chevron, several other companies, just talk about their experience running businesses in this community. So we will have some more hands-on stuff once I'm done with the lectures next week. But I don't know if I can organize a field trip. I'll try if I can. I like the idea, and I appreciate the suggestion. I'm not sure if it'll be logistically possible since we only have an hour and 15 minutes, and we would all have to meet somewhere else in the city and get there on time and leave on time, and then you guys have to get to your next classes. So a little bit difficult logistically, but let me see what I can do. More explanations and hints about Globus and the class as a whole. I like this. Possibly focus on one important factor each time we go over Globus. I like that. I tried to focus on a couple things last time, but there's all kinds of individual specific factors in Globus that I could go over. I really like that suggestion. So each time I go over Globus in class now, I will focus on one particular element of how to change the decisions. Going over key concepts that we need to know for the exam can be discussed. I'll try to add more discussion, and we certainly will have a review session for the second exam as well as for the final. Syllabus could include the weekly chapters. I like that. It's a little too late. And the same comment after that, clearly labeling what chapters match to the lectures. I'm using a new book this semester. It's the first time I've used it, and the lectures are not necessarily one-to-one to the book. I've added material in those lectures that I think is relevant, even if it's not in the book. So I was a little underprepared at the beginning of this semester to actually match the book up better with the syllabus. But I appreciate, from your guys' standpoint, if you're spending money on the book, even if it's as a team, you want to get more out of the actual book, since you're investing your time and money in it. So I will try to at least go back and kind of map things from the book to the syllabus in retrospect. But I like that idea, and in future classes I will try to do that in the syllabus too. How could I improve the grading system? Grading is standard and seems doable, easy to understand. Thank you. So it doesn't seem like there's any changes needed there. How could I improve my timeliness of grading? No improvements necessary. None. Grading is on point. Thank you. I'm surprised a little bit that those comments are the way they are, because I feel terribly guilty that it took me so long to get back to you with my comments on your professional development plans. And I still haven't gotten back to you about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is on my calendar for Sunday this weekend to give you comments on how to improve your LinkedIn profiles. I appreciate that you guys understand that I'm busy, but actually I figured people would complain that I'm late on getting you feedback on those things, because I feel like I'm really late. So thank you for the compliment there, but I will continue to try to get things done as soon as I can. So, how could I improve my office hours, communication? No change needed. Thank you. How could I improve the clarity and helpfulness of explanations? Visuals would be a plus. More videos. I really enjoyed showing that video last week, and again, like when I first started teaching this class, another version of this class back at the University of Cincinnati 5 years ago, I used to be in the music business, like you guys know, so I would show music videos every week just because I could, because I like them. They're cool videos, and I wanted, and I tried to relate them to the course concepts, but sometimes it was kind of a stretch, whether it really was necessary or relevant. So it takes a little bit of preparation on my part to find something that really is relevant to the class material. I'll try to do that more. I like the idea. It's a little bit more. It's a little bit more time consuming than you might realize on my part to do that, but I'll try my best. Supportiveness for the students. So it shows great support, very supportive. Thank you. I appreciate that. I try to be. There is not a better job in the world than being your guys' professor, to tell you the truth. I've had a lot of jobs too, like you guys know from my background, and my job at the end of the day is to help you guys achieve your goals and dreams in life. And it's a really worthwhile thing to do, and it's hard for me to imagine any professor not being supportive, because that's what the job's supposed to be all about to me. But I know all of my colleagues have different styles. They have their strong points and their weak points. But thank you. I'm glad you guys feel supported, because I care about every single person in here getting to where you want to go in life. So thank you for the compliments there. How could I improve the amount and type of assignments? No improvement, none. And then discussion questions could be provided. That's a good idea. Again, how many people in here have actually taught a class or had to be up on stage for an hour at a time, multiple times a week? So, Christina, Stephanie, what did you have to do?
Mine was a multiple choice week, but I had to do that, and you asked me how I did.
Well, no, I'm just is it comfortable or uncomfortable to be up in front of 50 people and not have anything to say?
It's not. It's not uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable maybe the first few hours, and then you get comfortable. I guess it depends on your personality, how you are. If you're not shy, if you're not scared.
Well, I'm definitely not shy, but I hate it when I'm standing up in front of the class and there's no talking going on. Either I should be saying something or you guys should be saying something, but it's really uncomfortable for me to just have crickets chirping. So that tends to be why I talk so much, because you guys, you don't necessarily raise your hands and volunteer to talk very often, and I don't want to put you on the spot any more than I have to. So I tend to end up talking a lot because you guys seem to be comfortable sitting there listening and not talking. But it would help the discussion a lot if I prepare questions beforehand. So I like that. I like that suggestion. I'll try to do it as possible. All of these things that I say I'll try to do, basically, they all involve me investing time. Stephanie, yes.
I was going to make a suggestion. Just if you don't want to ask a person, an individual, maybe you can ask as a group. An answer, they can answer your question.
I like it.
You don't want to put anybody else.
Yeah. Well, I like putting people on the spot. It's just you guys don't necessarily like being put on the spot, so I try to balance that. So
That's true. If you actually call out a group, it's a group question.
Uh-huh.
Where one person can actually say something and then the whole entire group can actually jump in.
Yeah, like
So
you're
it would lead more to a discussion that you're trying to get more people. So if you're actually calling out more of their group name, calling an individual, it puts out the whole entire group to speak out and to kind of collaborate and get it started.
okay. I like it. I like it, and I will. I think it's likely that I can get that done. The next time we do discussion, I'll focus it around the
I
groups.
think you've tried that already.
What's that?
I think you've tried that already. The day we went over, I think it was the last discussion we had. You kind of approached it that way, and it was still a little awkward, I feel. So not a lot. By awkward, I mean not a lot of people participated.
What do you think I could do better or different from the last time?
I think it's up to us, really. I really do think so. More involvement from us.
Okay. Well, I think like letting you know beforehand that I'm going to be asking about this question. I think that might help the groups to prepare more. So I'll try to do that before our discussion. So we're going to have a discussion not next week, but the week after. We'll have a lecture today, lecture Thursday, lecture next Tuesday, and then the review session for the exam next Thursday. And then the following Tuesday, we'll have discussion before the exam. So let me see if I can get some questions prepared and sent out to the groups beforehand. I think that would be a good idea. What could I do to be one of the best instructors you've ever had that you would recommend? I personally always recommend you. However, the way you can be one of the best instructors is maybe offer incentives to get extra points in our grades, something that has to do with curriculum in the community we live in. Maybe go to some events. I like that. You know, some of my colleagues do that, and I like that. Let me see what I can come up with for like extra credit, in addition to the extra credit that I already give when I'm late or for the surveys that you filled out. Let me see what I can come up with to give you some credit for doing stuff in the community. I like that idea. I really appreciate that I'm willing to help connect students with connections. I would like there to be more real-world application. As this is senior seminar, I would have liked to take more trips and physically see the topics that we're putting in action. Like I said, it's a little bit hard logistically to coordinate going somewhere that's very far away from campus because you all have different classes and we've only got an hour, but let me see what I can do. I certainly am going to have people come in here from various businesses around the community to talk to this class next month and in December. Some of the best teachers I've ever had were flexible when possible. I don't know if that was a suggestion or a comment that I already am flexible, but if I can be any more flexible than I already am, I'm happy to do so. Just let me know what I need to do, please, and I'm happy to be flexible. And then finally, what could I do to make this one of the best courses, as opposed to me as a professor? What could I do to make the course as great as possible? It's been pretty good so far. I enjoy applying all the concepts and skills from my past business courses into this one. Challenging us to apply techniques on paper and on Globus is good and fun, but I wish we were connected more with the community, so that the students can get more hands-on experience, especially because of senior SEM. It pains me to see other professors being lazy when it comes to teaching or letting some get by. Hopefully I'm not being lazy or letting anybody get by in here. I mean, honestly, I'm a pretty easy grader. I should, my colleagues sometimes give me a hard time about that. I should probably be more stringent about my grading, but my goal, I know grades are important to you guys, but first of all, let me say, community members, so forth, so on, we will have guest lecturers coming in, and it's going to take until the end of the semester, but one of your assignments that I want you to do for professional development is I want you to go through my LinkedIn contacts and find one person that you would like to be introduced to, and I will introduce you to that person as a professional contact. So I do look forward to doing that, and I will have people coming in for guest lectures too. I just needed to get through my lecture material before we have guests coming in. And then, grading wise, like I was going to say, I am a little bit I'm a pretty easy grader. I tend to give out a vast majority of A's and B's. You really have to not do something in my class to get a C, and you have to just blatantly not show up and not complete an assignment whatsoever. You have to mail it. You have to mail it in and not really make an effort to get a C, and you have to actually not do something to get a D. And I don't give Fs unless people actually don't do what I told them they need to do in order to pass the class. So I could be a little more stringent in that regard, but my philosophy in general is your grades really aren't that important. Honestly, a year or two from now, nobody, very, very rarely are any of your employers going to ask you what your grades were. Like, if you got all D's, they might be concerned. But if you get A's and B's and some C's every once in a while, nobody cares out in the real world with your jobs what your grade point average was. So my concern in this class is that you actually learn the concepts that we're working on, and that I help each of you to get where you want to go with your careers. So I tend to be a little lax about grading, and here's 10 points here for extra credit, here's 5 points here, here's like 1.25 or what 1.75 points for extra credit here because I was late. Because the grades just aren't that important to me compared to where you're going to be in your life and your career a year or 2 or 5 years from now. So my philosophy in general, but I know when I was sitting in your chair, the grade is very important to me. So it's one of the things that I am trying to do better as possible this semester, and then next semester and the semester after to be a little bit more rigorous with how I do my grading. But anyway, thank you all for all of those comments. Anything that I've highlighted in red here, I will try my best to do by the end of the semester. If it's in green, I will definitely do it by the end of the semester. And if it's in blue, then that means I was already doing something well. So I appreciate all of those comments very, very much. So let me close that. And without further ado, any questions or additional comments about the continuous improvement before I go on to the lecture? Okay. So, corporate governance. And of course, it's really, really slow to load, as always. La-da-da. Okay, cool. It's still recording. I thought it was. I wish I knew why sometimes this desktop is really slow and other times not. Like, there's nothing that I know that I'm doing that makes it slow sometimes and other times not. But anyway, slideshow from the beginning. So, like I said, I'm not going to go over these things at the beginning anymore, except to say that this week and next week we finally moved down to this section on the handbook map. So, the move towards modern corporations. Everything that we've been talking about up until now is basically about how to plan for positioning the company strategically. This week and next week, we're finally talking about how to manage the company rather than the planning part. So there's a fundamental difference in how the ownership and management structure works of different kinds of companies in our world. And it used to be the case that almost every company, so 100 years ago and 100, 200 years ago, separation of ownership and control was very rare. Usually, the owners of the company were the same people that also managed the company. And in most businesses today, that's still the case. Any small business, any privately owned business, the people who own the company are usually the same ones who manage the company. So family businesses, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, over 90% of all the businesses in the world are privately owned, relatively small, and the owners and the managers of the company are the same people. However, in big companies that are publicly traded, or even, I'm trying to, like, who works for Wonderful here? I forget. Is Wonderful still owned by the family?
Privately owned.
Yeah. So Wonderful is a big company, but it's still actually owned by the family members. However, because it's so big, I'm not sure, but I assume that there are some family members that are more actively involved in the business than others.
There's the president, which is Mr. Renzick, and his wife. There's
Mhm.
the head of the company and the most involved. They have no children.
They have no children? Really? Brothers and sisters or anything? Nephews, nieces?
That I know of.
Interesting. Well, that's going to be a major question as to what happens to the company when they finally retire. But a lot of times, so for example, the company I used to work for in Germany, Bertelsmann, it's a huge multinational media company. They own TV stations, they own book publishing houses, they own magazines, they own record labels, they own movie companies. But they're actually still privately held. However, the members of the family are actually part of the board of directors, and they all own shares of the company, but most of the members of the family don't actually manage the company. They hire people who are not part of the family to manage the company. And a lot of Walmart, actually, you can buy stock in Walmart, but the Walton family, you guys know that that's what the wall in Walmart comes from? Sam Walton is the guy, and the name of the guy that started the company back in the 1940s, 1950s. And his family still owns a large chunk of the stock, and his family still pretty much dominates the board of directors of that company. So even though there's a lot of people that own stock in Walmart and are not named Walton, the Walton family is still involved. However, the Walton family is not in charge of running the company day to day. An ex-girlfriend of mine, who sometimes I have a guest lecture here on Skype, she does strategic planning and purchasing for Walmart in their corporate headquarters in Bentonville, Arkansas. Most people who work in the headquarters office of Walmart are not part of the Walton family. They're independent people who don't own the company. They're not part of the family, but they are the managers who are actually in charge of controlling the company and managing it day to day. So any large publicly traded company these days, there's actually owners who are usually individuals who bought stock on the stock market and are not actually involved in any way with running the company. There's a board of directors who basically are the bosses of the bosses, and they meet a couple times a month, a couple times a year, depends on the board and the company, and they review the work of the president and the vice presidents and everything, and then the presidents and vice presidents and managers of the company are actually not owners of the company. They just have a salary, they have a contract, they manage the company. So big difference in how small private businesses versus large public businesses are run and owned. So board and governance issues. There's a lot of really interesting research that my colleagues have done, and I was involved with more so when I was doing my PhD than now. There's a lot of interesting research on the board of directors. So boards of directors for large companies, you know how we have like trustees for the university? The board of directors is kind of like the trustees of a large company. It's usually 10, 20 people at the most, and they meet periodically to just make big picture decisions about where the company should be going and what the company should be doing. So some interesting issues, like I said before, in a lot of large publicly traded companies, there's an incongruity in goals between the people that are the presidents and vice presidents and so forth and the owners of the company. So a lot of times, if I have a salary and I'm the president of the company, I might do things that give me the most bonus money at the end of the year, but don't necessarily make the stock price the highest possible, because I don't own the stock. My interest as a manager is in my salary, and the stockholders, their interest is in the stock price. So when you have a separation of ownership and management, there's a lot of times goal incongruity between the managers and the owners. You've also got information asymmetry, which basically means that the managers know what's going on every day with the company. They know where the handbrake model positioning is. They know the customer profile. They know the Porter's Five Forces information. The owners don't know that stuff. So there's a big need for giving reports and transparency to the owners in a large publicly traded company. And then finally, sometimes the desire to take risk is either higher or lower in the managers than it is with the owners. Sometimes the owners would like it if the company took more risks, because then if the risks are rewarded, then the stock price goes up more than if the company's conservative. However, sometimes if there's a short-term risk that is going to pay off big for the managers, but long-term it's very dangerous for the stock price, then the stockholders are less interested in risk than the managers. There's two different theories about boards of directors that academics, my colleagues in academic publishing, talk about a lot. One of them is called agency theory. The other one is called resource dependence theory. And the basic gist of it is agency theory. Agency theory is all about the conflict in goals between managers and owners. Agency theory basically says that managers are going to behave in ways that are not always in the interest of owners, and there have to be control systems in place, like the board of directors, to make sure that the managers do what the owners want them to do. Resource dependence theory is a little bit different. It basically says that the board of directors is not there to exercise control, but the board of directors is there to provide connections to resources. So they provide connections to other companies, advice and counsel. They're there as a resource rather than as a control mechanism. Board independence. Every board of directors has insiders and outsiders. So, like if you think about General Motors, for example, or Ford, or big auto companies, they have somebody from usually they have the president or the chief operating officer or somebody like that on the board. They have they might have one or two managers from different departments in the company on the board. They're going to have a union representative on the board, And then they're going to have people on the board that are not part of GM whatsoever. They're people from the community, rich individuals who are retired, but they volunteer their time or they get paid to be on the board. So it's always an important dynamic how many people are insiders and work for the company and are also on the board versus how many people are not working for the company and outsiders on the board. And you want to make sure that you have as many outsiders as possible on the board, but not all outsiders. You need some insiders, but you want to have the majority of the board be outsiders. And then finally, the board is there for some important control mechanisms, especially after a lot of the financial crisis in 2008 and then an earlier financial crisis that we had around 2000. You've got some laws that were passed by Congress, Sarbanes-Oxley and Dodd-Frank, which basically mean that there's a whole bunch, like big piles of paper that all public companies are required to publish for all of their stockholders, and the board is responsible for making sure that those reports get done each year. The board also makes decisions about how much various executives get for their compensation or for their incentives and stuff, and then they also make decisions about mergers and acquisitions, poison pills, which basically are provisions in a contract that make it impossible to break the contract. If you break the contract or do whatever, the cost of breaking the contract is so high that you don't want to do it. And then golden parachutes are basically compensation packages for executives that retire. There's been numerous stories in the last couple of years of elaborate compensation that executives get for when they retire that may or may not be warranted. So the board of directors is responsible for making those decisions. I've listed a chart here, which basically in the world of academic research, we always do citations of other people's work. And this is a nice chart of some of the major research that's been done on boards of directors over the years. So 94, 98, 97, 03, 05. And these are all the different roles that a board plays. So determining the mission and purpose of the organization, so mission, vision statement, and so forth, the board has a lot of say in what that is. Select the executives and establish conditions of employment. So the board chooses and hires who the president, and the president of the company is usually like the highest person in the company. So the people that hire or are the bosses of the president are the board of directors. Set policies and adopt plans for the organization's operations. So decisions about what the handbrick model should be are made by the board of directors. Approve and monitor the organization's programs and services. Approve budgets. Enhance the public image of the organization. Basically, there's a lot of reporting functions that the board has to get reports from managers, and then the board also is responsible for talking with the community and building relationships for the company with other members of the community. And then finally, the last point here on the lecture is it's a measure for calculating diversity. So diversity in boards diversity in any organization is really important. The more people of different ethnic backgrounds, different ages, different geographic backgrounds, different educational backgrounds, different work backgrounds, different family backgrounds, different sexual orientations, etc., etc. The more different genders, the more diversity you have in an organization, the more different perspectives, the more ideas, the more innovation you tend to have in the organization. So this is a relatively complex mathematical formula for determining a relatively simple concept of diversity. And I will show you quick how it works, just like based on this group here. So we've got about 42 students in this class, I think. How many people in here are accounting focus? Keep your hands up for a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Okay, so this little equation here, D equals the sum of n over n squared. So in this case, the total n is 42. That's how many total students we have in the class. The number of accounting majors or accounting focused people is 8, I think I said. So 8 divided by 42 is 7, is it? 7 squared is 49. Is that right?
I think I did.
Oh no, it's the different way.
It's actually like 5.
It's 1/7.
5 point something.
0.19. Square 0.19 for me. .036. Now, how many people in here are management focused? 1, 2, 3, 4, I think. So that's going to be 4 over 42, which is, Anish, can you calculate that for me again?
4 divided by 32 is 0.12.
And then square it?
0.016.
0.16. And then I think we have small business focus, and we have operations focus, and so forth and so on. If we go through and add up all of the different calculations there of the focus of everybody in this room, we'll come up with a number. This is so. If all we had was accounting focus and management focus, then our total diversity number would be 0.052. And basically, the higher that number is, the lower the diversity. So it's an interesting way of calculating the diversity in an organization. Yes, Anish?
Usually the closer it is to 1, the less diverse you are.
Yep. Well, if you just think about it, if everybody in here were an accounting focus, that would be 42 divided by 42, which is 1. 1 squared is 1. Then there's nothing else to add up because we've covered everybody in the room. So that means the diversity is 0. The diversity index is 1. Okay? So a lot of times there's this number here at the bottom, Simpson's index of diversity. So because like just we as human beings tend to think that like bigger numbers good, lower numbers bad. So instead of 1 being no diversity, if it's 1 minus whatever the number is, then Simpson's index of diversity for this situation would be 1 minus 0.052, which is 9 0.948. Oh, excuse me, 0.948. So that's a pretty diverse group, basically. Since we only have 8 people who are accounting focused and 4 people who are management focused, and if we continue doing that for all the rest, it's a pretty diverse group here when it comes to what your focus is for your education. So it's an interesting and useful way of calculating the diversity of any organization. So that is actually the last slide of my lecture for the day. And it's just about 2 o'clock. So anybody have a problem with getting done early today? Okay, cool. I'll see you all on Thursday. Yes?
For those 10 resumes that you want, or 10 applications that you want to send out, if you get hired before you send out all 10, do you know some?
Just send out the rest. Just tell me where you got hired.
Cool. We have a question.
Yes.
You can't get the financials for Wonderful because they are privately owned.
For Wonderful? Did you try to go to Google and just type in Wonderful income statement?
No.
Here, hang on. Let me turn off the recording before I forget.